Welcome in, Vol Nation. You are listening to the Bearded Tennessee podcast. Go Vols. Good Thursday morning, Vol Nation. I hope everybody is doing well. We are launching into this week with some news that Tennessee has opened up as a 2.5-point favorite to Oklahoma. And we haven't even gotten into Oklahoma week. So this is early. I would imagine that spread is going to grow in favor of Tennessee. And I even called this. I think Tennessee, the chances to beat a lot of teams this year because they were slept on in the preseason, those chances are going to go up. The only one that I may see that won't go in favor, particularly of Tennessee as of right now, would be the Georgia game. But here we are at the beginning of the season, and we're kind of sitting here going, I told you so. I get it. We're only 2 games into the season, but it didn't take long for when I started to go live on TikTok with my live shows that Vol haters were in the TikTok. They were in the comments. And it started with, there's no way that you're going to beat NC State. There's no way you're going to beat NC State. Tennessee fans are delusional. And then it turned into, you really think you're going to go into Oklahoma and beat Oklahoma? Now, that argument is a little bit more valid than the NC State argument, right? Oklahoma's a good football team. Some experts have them going 8-4. I get why, because, their offensive line is a struggle. And here's the reality in the SEC. You are not going to survive in the SEC with a mid offensive line. It is just not going to work. And so I believe that this year is going to be a welcome to the SEC, Oklahoma, but you're not just going to come in and dominate from a conference that barely has any defense, right? So here we are in this season, and we're 2 games in, and there's a lot of hype surrounding the Tennessee Vols. And I said at the beginning of the season, before I could even make a prediction, put a W in confidence next to the Oklahoma game, I needed to see a little bit more from Tennessee's secondary, and I needed to see a little bit more from Oklahoma's offensive line. Because let's just be real here. At the beginning of the year, predictions are really just a shot in the dark. It's a shoot from the hip in a pitch black room, right? There's a lot of things that you need to see. AP polls are always so there's just so much mix up, and there's so much of an interruption into preseason picks, and because teams, we didn't expect the team to look like that. Look at Florida State, right? 0-2, their playoff hopes are now right out the window. But I said I needed to see more from Tennessee's secondary and to see more from Oklahoma's offensive line. And after I saw Oklahoma's performance against Houston, I went from having a question mark next to Oklahoma to putting a W. And some fans were like, why in the world are you so confident with a W next to Oklahoma? Now, given that's not just a guaranteed W, right? It's just, I believe there's a higher percentage for Tennessee to win that game than it is for them to lose that game. And ESPN FBI percentages have shot really, really high in favor of the Vols compared to where they were weeks ago. If we look at just looking at the Oklahoma Sooners injury report, they've got some key injuries on the offensive line. Brett Venables gave a most recent injury update, and it by far was probably more of a frustrating update than it was a hopeful one for Oklahoma Sooner fans. They're plagued by injuries at the beginning of this year. Do I think that plays a part in kind of the favorability for Tennessee? Yes, I do. But here's the reality. I think just neck and neck when you look at both teams. They really are both tough teams to compete against each other. So I think that Tennessee is the better football team on paper. I do think that this is going to be a crazy environment. It's going to be a tough environment for Nico and crew to go into because there's emotion attached to Josh Heupel's return. Now, you can't compare Josh Heupel to Lane Kiffin, but if you remember when Lane Kiffin came to Knoxville, the place was insane. And so now Josh Heupel is coming back to Oklahoma. That separation wasn't necessarily a healthy one. There was a little bit of tension in the mix there, a little bit of tension, a wedge put in the relationship, if you will, once Josh Heupel stepped away. I don't know all the details there, but I know that that relationship, it's a respected relationship, but I think there's a little bit of tension there. And so, but on the flip side of that coin, we know that Oklahoma is going to be a crazy loud environment. We just found out recently that it's a night game. And so now that Josh Heupel is going into Oklahoma on top of a night game, all those people have been tailgating all day. It's going to be a crazy environment for the Vols to go into. But I think this team is more prepared under Josh Heupel to handle the crazy environment that is going to be in Norman, Oklahoma this year better than any other year that Josh Heupel has been at the University of Tennessee. And you may say, well, Bearded, why do you say that? Here's why I believe that is because we've got more experience this year. We've got more veteran leadership this year. A lot of these guys have gone through the hurts and the pains of losing in Gainesville last year, going to South Carolina 2 years ago and losing that game, games that they should have won, but they could not pull it out because of the road environment. I believe that this year is a different year, and we see a different result coming out of Norman. I believe that Tennessee's front seven is just too much for the Oklahoma Sooners. I believe that Tennessee is going to come out ready to play, and just as much as Oklahoma is going to be emotional, remember Josh Heupel. There's more of a personal approach to this game. Josh Heupel is going into this game with a fire lit under his rear end. And you can believe that this team will be ready to play and ready to go to battle on behalf of Josh Heupel. So I think that this game is going to be a close game in the beginning. We'll get into more of the logistics and kind of the score details next week. But I think that Tennessee, rightfully so, is favored to win this game. Tennessee's front seven is just too much for the Oklahoma Sooners offensive line. You look at NC State, you look at Oklahoma. I think NC State and Oklahoma would be a fantastic game, a fantastic prime game, and go neck and neck and be back and forth all game long. But we saw what Tennessee did at a neutral site to NC State's offensive line. I said it all week long. NC State has no shot to beat Tennessee if their offensive line that played against Western Carolina shows up to play this Tennessee front seven. And all of a sudden, the secondary woes go out the window. What about our secondary? You can have a mid-secondary with a fantastic front seven and be just fine. And Oklahoma and NC State's offensive line, they mirror each other a little bit. I don't even go as far to say that NC State's offensive line is more experienced and more talented than Oklahoma's offensive line. They're older, got more experience under their belt, and Tennessee handled the NC State offensive line with ease. So I think that Tennessee does go into this game. They do win this game, and I think the favorability, the 2.5 favorite, will grow in between now and then. After this weekend, we'll get into the details, the score predictions, and a little bit more detail. But I just wanted to come on and give the news that there is a favorability now in Norman. And there's a favorability now in Norman, my bad, for the Tennessee Volunteers. And it was to be expected, especially on my end. And I think that it is validated on why Tennessee is favored in this game. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you for tuning into this video. If you would like and subscribe to like this video, subscribe to the channel. It'll help grow this community. We're looking to grow this community to new heights, and solely here, man, to have relationships with Vol fans and to be able to do what I love to do, and that's to communicate about Tennessee athletics. Thank you guys so much. If you're new here, welcome. So glad to see you. Have a good one.